Welcome to HGC North America, and thank you NA fans for your patience while we finished up EU. I promise it'll be a day worth waiting for, because up next, we're going to have a test that we have been building toward for all of Part 2. As Superstars and SpaceStation Gaming, go head to head, it's that epic. Can your valiant commentators keep the names straight, Dread? I feel like we're gonna need this.
We're probably gonna need it.
We're probably gonna need it. Also, I've been saving these up for a rainy day, but I'm busting them out.
All right.
Borrowed from Blackheart himself.
Oh.
And we can just drop those in whenever we're having an issue with the names, because it's gonna happen. Except it's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen because we are better than that. We have SpaceStation Gaming and Superstars. Already almost said SpaceStation Gaming twice. It's a doozy here. Going head to head here to kick off our HGC Part 2 Week 4.
Yeah, it is going to be really fun. We've got a lot to mention about both of these teams, especially looking at how they performed last weekend. But let's check in with the standings and see the aftermath of last weekend, what I am affectionately dubbing as Upset Weekend. We had so many upsets littering last weekend, weekend number 3 in Part 2 of Phase 2. And because of that, Gale Force Esports, who actually was the team who was first able to clinch a spot in the HGC Finals at BlizzCon, actually not as statistically likely as either Freedom or Roll20 to be able to get one of those top 2 spots, which means Gale Force could likely be playing through playoffs.
And just one weekend. Upset weekend was all it took there.
Yes.
Gale Force Esports starting at the top, and now you're third. They still have a chance, though. The sitting prime for the playoffs, and all the teams that sit outside of the Crucible Brains do have an opportunity to be that third team and represent North America at the HGC Finals at BlizzCon. It's all got to be through that playoff ladder system. We talk about it so often about prepping yourself, bettering your positioning in order to essentially remove an opponent, and you always want to have that, when you have such a big tournament on the line.
And as you guys could see, the top of the North American standings are honestly just so close that unlike Europe and Korea, South Korea, where we have 2 teams that have already qualified, one from each, Fnatic and MVP Black, we're still relying on multiple contingencies to take place, even for a team to clinch a spot in the HGC Finals from North America this weekend. So it is anyone's game still for those 2 guaranteed spots. Let's check in with the standings, or the schedule for today. For Europe, playing Ducks and Team Experts still posturing for playoffs themselves. Later on, we'll see Team Freedom and Even and Death both start off their double set weekends with a match versus each other. But first, the 2 stars of Upset Weekend, Superstars versus SpaceStation Gaming. Dread, do you have an edge to either one of these teams today?
I feel if I had to give an edge, it's got to go to SpaceStation Gaming. I'm not necessarily saying that SpaceStation Gaming has a huge lead by any means, because obviously both with a huge upset. When we're talking about those upsets, it's Gale Force Esports and Tempo Storm. Both fell to these teams. And the top of the standings falling to the middle of the pack is a rare sight here in North America, or maybe not so much going forward. But I think mainly Tempo Storm's fluctuation in performance has been consistent over the long run, right? They started out extremely stable, and it's only been getting increasing. So I feel like the upset that we saw Superstars able to get over them, and I'm not saying that it doesn't mean a lot, because obviously it means a whole lot, but I just feel like to have a bad day, Tempo is the most consistent to have that, right? The most consistent inconsistency would be throughout them. And so it's not really that solid, but I do feel if I was to give it, it's got to be to SpaceStation.
I would agree.
Okay.
But Gale Force Esports has always been, for all of this year, the team that if they have 2 matches in a weekend, one of them seems to get overlooked or something, which is definitely how it felt with SpaceStation. So it is hard to gauge, definitely, between these 2 teams. Let's get into it, and let's hear from both of the teams about this important match.
It was really surprising we 3-0 the Gale Force. I feel like they didn't draft as well as they used to, and I think we just played better on that day. We showed up. We're preparing for Superstars. They did surprisingly beat Tempo Storm, losing only 1 game, which was really weird. But we did beat them last split as well, and we feel really confident, and we're not too worried. We do have to watch out players on their team, like Hosty has a really good Medivh. Yoda has one of the best things, and Urho, he was once a top tier tank. They're gonna make the plays, and we have to watch out for that.
We've always viewed SpaceStation Gaming as a very difficult opponent. So, I mean, yeah, they took a series off of Gale Force, and we took a series off of Tempo Storm. I think it more shows the inconsistency of NA. Of course, we both SSG and us have improved quite a lot, and I think this matchup's going to kind of prove who has improved the most. I guess, over the course of the second part of the season. So we're all looking forward to the match. I'm sure they can say the same. I think Gale Force and Tempo Storm have both been showing levels of inconsistency, and SSG and ourselves have stepped up our consistency. So really the ball is in the court of Tempo Storm and GFE. Do they really deserve to get that top 3? I mean, playoffs will tell. I mean, if they drop the ball in playoffs, their whole season, early seasons, it doesn't matter anymore, you know? So all of the teams, especially our team, knowing that we have a chance to get in the playoffs, we're like, look, we legitimately have a chance to get top 3. If these teams are being this inconsistent, and if we can prove ourselves against SSG, we can go to the top 3. We can go to BlizzCon, even in our current situation. So I mean, we're very positive about it.
Arrow has some confidence there, and it makes a lot of sense. They got that upset over Tempo Storm, and now Superstars have all but eliminated Even in Death as a threat for putting them back down into the Crucible. Now they just have to focus on getting another victory somewhere, or at least making sure they're maintaining some consistent game wins to make sure that they can keep Lag Force in the Crucible range too. But SpaceStation even has an opportunity with this win to overtake Tempo Storm as the number 4 team, and 4th versus 5th is a huge advantage when we talk about playoff stretch.
It is a colossal advantage, and beyond the advantage, I mean, to even consider the fact that SpaceStation Gaming could overcome Tempo Storm in the standings is something that, I mean, everybody kicking off Phase 2 would say not a chance in hell. And the fact that that is even a realistic thing here in part number 2 is astounding. But beyond, you know, the advantage, Tempo Storm, I mean, they've got to be a team who absolutely wants to remove as many opponents as possible. Showing as little information as they possibly could is going to be one of the biggest advantages a, you know, kind of Titan team like Tempo is, would be able to gain in those playoffs.
Well, let's get into it. Game 1 between SpaceStation and Superstars will take place on Battlefield of Eternity. This is one of the drafting change-ups we saw Superstars implement versus Tempo Storm last week, being willing to pick Battlefield of Eternity for the first time when historically, this has not been a Superstars pick, but they do have a really good record on it. They're sitting at 4-1 on Battlefield of Eternity through Phase 2. But what is interesting to me is that even though Battlefield of Eternity is a choice still sometimes for SpaceStation Gaming, they have a terrible record on it. They're like 1-5, so they're exact opposite. I was kind of hoping maybe we would see a Battlefield of Eternity ban for SpaceStation, but maybe they feel like they can deal with the sort of split push style that Superstars brings to the table on Battlefield.
I do think there's, you know, at least another thing to be considering maybe with the thought process of SpaceStation Gaming. I mean, beyond the false positives and everything like, it's that Superstars just changed that recently, right? And it was only into Tempo Storm. We've only seen 1 week, and it's just not enough to be maybe considering it a habit. Maybe they thought, because Tempo is weak on a map like Battlefield of Eternity, picking that out could have very much been a Tempo Storm only strategy rather than a complete change, you know, essentially thought process and approach to the game.
2 very unique strategies. SpaceStation does not play Medivh at all. They have not shown this hero. Superstars has been loving their Medivh play, and they deviate quite a bit when it comes to supports. After Rhaegar, they both love Rhaegar, but after that, their favorite supports differ quite a lot between these 2 teams. Same with Warriors. We know SpaceStation, Casanova wants ETC absolutely every chance that he can get. That tends to be more like an Arthas for Airho, and we're still kind of figuring out with Srey now back on the team what the Warriors are going to be, but globals and some of the range, those are the places of contention I see between these 2 teams.
And another thing we got to be talking about is the fact that we are playing on a different patch. On that side roll, we haven't even talked about the fact that Leo had made a pretty heavy mark in the European scene already through HGC. And so now it's got to be, you know, where does the Skeleton King show up? Does he show up? A map like Battlefield, maybe side-soaking strategies can exist, but generally I still don't maybe see a standout argument for him here. But hey, you know, this is a brand new patch. Everybody's going to be learning a little bit of something. We got the Grey Mane and Abathur, though, for the members of Superstars. Slow play from them, but it's that split-push play style that they have been willing to kind of move into recently on BOE.
And SpaceStation has been more willing to play Vala as of late, Equinox playing that hero and then getting Dahaka as a method of keeping up with that split push strategy. Does this allow SpaceStation to be aggressive from the beginning? Having the Hungering Arrow build for Vala is a great start to being able to race and get those early immortals so that they can do structural damage that Abathur can't keep up with in the early game.
I do think SpaceStation does have a lot of really good tools there so far to be able to deal with the Abathur. By no means do they have all the tools necessary, but considering their 3 picks, I think all of them are in generally the right direction. We have Vala for the race potential onto the Immortal, ETC for the hard crowd control, enabling lethal potential, but then the 4-man or even a traditional 1-3-1 strategy we've seen as of late, and more importantly, probably most importantly, the Dahaka. The fact that he is going to be the man dealing with the experience and threatening the Worm at all points in time. I really like what SpaceStation made happen, but again, oh, wow, that's actually really cool because just that lethalness we were talking about into the 4-man and committing to it, that's the ETC All-Rack synergy that we very rarely get to see, but on Battlefield once in a while kind of pops up.
And you always have to keep in mind those pocket picks for SpaceStation especially. They are a team that it seems like last weekend versus Gale Force Esports really felt out where they need to stick to meta and where they can start to bring in some niche picks. They had the right mix of that to cause a lot of problems for Gale Force Esports, and Alarak was a big deal for SpaceStation. It has been always a pocket pick for this entire year for Talking Trees. Genji ban to follow up for SpaceStation. They were considering Malthael as another ban. That may still be a possibility for Superstars. That is one side laner and one that Dahaka would have trouble with.
Yeah, that would be a pretty reasonable direction. The biggest thing I'm looking at, I feel like for Superstars that I'd like to see has got to be the Arthas. Considering the map that they already have, they've got the Abathur hat, it synergizes with the Greymane, opportunities to move into Executioner if they need it necessarily. I just feel like it's a pretty solid, well-rounded pick. You always got the Syndragosa flavor that could come out, but let's be real here. She's been keeping to herself. I was going to make a lore joke, but I really didn't realize, I have no idea where Syndragosa actually resides when she's not being used.
She's got some sort of den or lair that you actually fight in at one point.
Well, you know, turns out. In the
what do I do with this guy?
Ice Crown Citadel? Is that
it?
Yeah,
good job. Yeah, he did it.
I did start playing World of Warcraft in a Wrath.
Is Syndragosa in there? Now I'm showing I don't know. Uh-oh.
Nerd failure. That's you. Uther.
Well, there's two ice dragons. They're very confusing.
Uther and Lunara are not ice dragons, but they're here for Superstars. A lot of synergy there. We talked, oh man, what was the pick that I wanted to see? The Arthas enabling. The Lunara is essentially going to be able to make that happen. It's just not through a beefy frontliner. And I mean, let's be real here. If they feel like they need it, Superstars still can go that direction. But the slow of Arthas that I wanted to see them pick up is not nearly as high value now after she's been locked in.
Final couple picks for SpaceStation. If Equinox plays Vala, then Talking Tree still has a possibility of flexing somewhere. But there's no Greymane. That's been taken away. Karzim, of course, for Tiger JK, and that final pick will be Li Ming. That is the Talking Trees hero.
Li Ming into an Abathur composition. So far, it's the Lunar and Greymane both can be pretty vulnerable into Li Ming. Keep in mind, at level 13, Superstars have the opportunity to go into that greater spell shield on Lunar if they feel like the Li Ming is providing too much threat. And right now, with the composition that they have, I don't feel like that's an unreasonable direction to be going with these talents. Just avoiding the reset is an absolute must here for Superstars. Stall out the game, get value out of that Abathur, and then take those late-game powerhouse team fights that you know the clone can drop.
Even the clone of Greymane should be able to do a lot, pushing Li Ming out of the team fights long enough to deal with a different pick potentially from SpaceStation. But that final warrior, if not an Arthas, then what would you like to see there?
Sweet, sweet Tyrael. Drop the Angel on the battleground. Give me the double Greymane. It is not lethal when it comes to the 4-man. It synergizes in the team fight, and yes, it weakens the level 1 through 4 maybe a bit, or 1 through 9, excuse me, a bit too much for the members of Superstars. But to be frank, I don't feel like the Johanna makes up for that anymore so, and it also kind of struggles a bit more into the team fight. So already, I'm looking for a major argument here for the members of Superstars. Where's the Johanna going to stand out? Unless, I'm going to say the words, unless it's a major falling sword kind of adjustment.
We've seen a few.
Don't think it's going to case. And even if it is, it's not a composition where I go, oh, the falling sword is the recovery point. It can synergize with the heavy death ball that they have. It's just, there's nobody who can immediately get killed on the backline. If that was a Rhaegar support, maybe. But the Karzim should be able to deal with that damage.
A lot of the times what we see from Johanna on Battlefield of Eternity is someone who can stall your opponents from taking an Immortal as fast as they would like to. She's got blinds for both Vala, although Vala will be more Hungering Arrow build, but still even in between when those couple of Hungering Arrows are coming out post 7, she'll help with Karazim too, trying to slow down that damage.
That's a good point. The Karazim damage is something to keep in mind there. Maybe that's a little bit... It's just, does it pull too much from the team fight is my biggest concern, right? Because if you were worried about levels 1 through 9, shouldn't have Arthas been able to make up for those auto attackers just as effectively? So it's like, well, then does it make up for it in team fight phase? And Johanna in team fight phase, you know, let's see it. And maybe it's the ETC argument is the biggest thing I think that we see coming online here. It's just on a battlefield, I mean, condemns on many ways is what I like to see, and we know we aren't going to get much of that here.
Yeah, maybe it was more of a stopping of a mosh pit, but then again, Muradin was still available. We'll have to see how the Johanna works out for Superstars in Game 1, but it is their battleground, Battlefield of Eternity. So let's get to it. Let's start off this best of 5 between SpaceStation and Superstars.
We're kicking it off in the blue with Superstars, where we have the Abathur, played by Sray, Hosty on Lunara, Yoda playing the Greymane. We've got Iacona on Uther, and last is Urho on Johanna.
And in the red, SpaceStation Gaming, Tiger JK, support player playing his favorite Karazim. Jason will be side soaking against that Abathur on Dahaka. Casanova playing his ETC Equinox, playing Vala, and finally Talking Trees, playing Liming.
So what do we see with laning decision-making out of Superstars? With the Johanna and the Abathur, it's got to be, you know, kind of a little bit awkward for them. We'll see how proactive the members of SpaceStation Gaming decide that they want to be. As with Abathur compositions, as we traditionally see, it's got to be a lot of focus onto levels 1 through 9 and getting that punishment inward. Also, Superstars is a team that with their Abathur, haven't they historically been willing to kind of take those level 1 through 9 team fights and invade inappropriately to the point where it's been punished?
It's been punished, yes, but sometimes it also has been able to work out for them. But SpaceStation is a team that will willingly take that fight in the early game. They always want to try to get an early game lead and then snowball that into either a victory or just irreparable damage that they can get a victory with later on once they win a team fight that is unfavorable for their opponents. It hasn't always worked out for them in the game plan. Like, I think when they played Tempo Storm, it sort of failed to turn into a good plan for them, but since then they have been working really hard to continue that. And they have ETC and a lot of damage early on as a way from doing that, but Tiger JK has been caught.
He threw off the second Radiant Dash, hat on top of it, Condemn unable to connect. Tiger JK is fine and he makes it out. But I talked about watching SpaceStation Gaming and what they would be looking to do in this laning phase to punish the members of Superstars. And so far, they're willing to run a 2-3 laning situation. Now Equinox is making his way down. And, you know, I just feel like this is a minute and a half too late, Gilly, because we're right now on the brink of these Immortals spawning. Whereas this should have been a lot of pressure in the earlier stages from their foreman against that of Superstars, again, because of the Abathur hat.
Yeah, no structural damage was done, but the race possibilities for SpaceStation is huge. It's Superstars who get set up. They have good damage too, especially with Greymane being able to go into Worgen form. SpaceStation looks like they're going to move up through the defense, heading up toward their Dahaka, who may be able to collapse. Jason gets a drag. It's on Uther, but Iacona and Yoda and Hosty will push him all the way back to the gate.
Now Urho is the focus for the members of SpaceStation Gaming as he's got the Abathur hat, drops the Iron Skin, zoning away the members of SpaceStation. But they got a reasonable amount of damage there, about 4,000 advantage for SpaceStation Gaming over Superstars. But Superstars, they want the slow game. We know this is what they are aiming for. They want to delay as long as they possibly can here and just get that Abathur to the post-10 mark. If this Immortal dies and both teams are at least close in shielding and around levels 8, 9, they have got to be very, very thankful for that.
Love that Superstars are using their Greymane to get the Khazra camp in the top. This is going to force Dahaka to stay in position in this lane even longer and potentially even let Superstars start doing some structural damage. If they know that they're about to lose this, and once they do lose the halfway point, maybe push along with these and just take down some towers. Try to get their Abathur composition to 10 as quickly as possible.
And still with the 3 versus 4 here in mid, Superstars have done well with the defense. Ho sees the pressure as Casanova landed that power slide. Dahaka comes in with the brush stock. Jason focuses on to the Immortal here. A bit of miscommunication with SpaceStation.
Yeah, SpaceStation, some of them had a potential to get some kills, but in the end, Jason focuses on the Immortal, and it is enough to force the swap point, the halfway point. But in the interim, look how much Superstars got done to the front gate of that top lane for SpaceStation, nearly taking down a tower and starting to accrue an experience advantage.
The Superstars just backed all up through top, got a tap, and they made the transition down. Yes, they were losing the race before, but they lost a bit more damage than they maybe should have. Just with that transitioning, moving up towards that tap. But SpaceStation Gaming, we find it with a 50% shielding Immortal, they're going to make stuff happen.
Yeah, I think maybe there was some miscommunication as to who was attacking what and who was going to be able to go back there at the end. Gave a little bit more time for Superstars to get some damage in. But here it is, the first Immortal. SpaceStation checks in, slows down Superstars to the defense of this Immortal.
Shielding still existing, but not for long. Superstars here. Dahaka's in a lane mismatch up on bottom, but because that camp was timed so properly by Superstars, they got to be pretty thankful. Talk about a value knockback from Casanova. Prepping the Immortal with a double stun. Nothing gained, nothing lost, but it is a bit flashy.
There goes the power slide stun after it. Iron Skin has to be used, but Casanova's way far forward, and Condemn keeps him there for the members of Superstars to attack. Casanova falling even lower thanks to the poison. Does Tiger JK have the heal?
He doesn't even maybe need it there. Casanova dropped his own heal, the W afterwards. You know, it's a bit weird there, the thought process from Superstars too. You saw them very concerned on getting that kill, but Iacona was the only one who was trying to make sure that it ended up going down. And let's be real here, your support fronting the lines for getting kills is maybe not the best strategy to be having here, Superstars. But again, it's about that communication between these teams. The structural pressure still is near 50-50, which again is a huge setback for the members of SpaceStation Gaming, especially if Abathur locks in a mule.
You know, you talked about the communication between the teams, and one of the things that let both of these teams get the major upsets they did last week was that we finally saw synergy between the frontliners in a way that we've been wanting to see for these teams for a long time. Between Casanova and Equinox, making sure that they have the synergy there between those two, and even Jason when he comes in with his Dahaka. And then for Superstars, now that Srey is back with the team, obviously it's going to take a little bit of time to give that synergy. And the first series that Superstars had, it wasn't quite there, but to make the adjustments necessary to be able to take out Tempo Storm was huge for them. And the team that's able to continue that and have that consistency is going to be able to win versus the other here today.
Such a good turn here from the members of Superstars, and Casanova is wearing the hat. Iron Skin there, a kill in first blood over to Superstars. Punishment, though, being rebutted as the drag does land onto Urho. Nice stun from Iacona and friends. They make it out here. That was, wow, and the dodge there.
That dodge. Heel's still there. It's not out yet.
Oh my, he lives!
Oh, what? Hosty? You legend.
Talking Trees throws the orb over the wall, magic missiles in the other direction, thinking that he has 100% one dead Dryad, but somehow Hosty stays alive here, but it comes at a cost. A lot of damage onto this Immortal. You know, to be honest here, the members of Superstars, that is not a winning trade here. Gotta be wishing that it got a bit better for them in terms of the Immortal spawning.
Let's see where the next one spawns for the teams. Maybe it's a better defended spot for Superstars. Superstars do have an experience advantage going into this next phase.
That's huge for them. Again, levels 1 through 9, they should be suffering here. Nice Iron Skin use is going to wear the power slide. Tiger JK goes in. Make sure Hosty is going to check himself. He'll do so, and we'll wait toward the race here.
There comes the poke. Superstars need to get into a position where they can try to soak up some of these skill shots, because now we've got the double hungering arrow with repeating arrow coming in at level 7 for Vala, and then Leeming continually can shell out both orbs and magic missiles.
Abathur has a huge wave up on top. That's going to be a lot of experience on the race at 10. SpaceStation has to take this Immortal right now, and it looks like they will. They move up very aggressively, gaining 3/4, roughly 75% shielding. That's a big old pupper when it comes to this Immortal. The members of Superstars, they've got to be rather timid around this monster.
I thought SpaceStation might choose to not push along with the Immortal. Yes, it's giant, it has a ton of shielding, but
go 50-50.
Heroic abilities, Superstars is just about to get heroic, so that might be a place where SpaceStation can't push along with this Immortal for very long if Superstars gets those heroics.
Not only because of that, but also into a above 50% shielding Immortal against an Abathur composition. Yeah. Double structures is a double win there. So I agree with you. I thought SpaceStation would in fact siege up on top, but they decide they're going to group up here. They've got those heroics we were concerned so heavily about here. And the Immortal shielding, it is still live and ready.
Yeah, they knew that they would be able to catch up at least if they could take down those towers quickly, and so Superstars never really had a place to engage with heroics. Uther's still considering what Iacona is going to get, but it's Iacona himself. SpaceStation have isolation for Dahaka. They're really trying to bring down this fort. They do get the well, but they don't get the fort, and now Superstars is chasing them back, getting aggressive so they can save it with the mule.
That was so amazing. Not only getting the zone and pushing out the pressure they were able to put onto Casanova. I mean, it feels like Casanova's passive just flat out isn't working here. With the rate at which Superstars is applying pressure, they're like, we don't even need this armor, but wait, the invade is here. SpaceStation has a mosh pit opportunity. He's going to go on point. Blessed Shield is used. Isolation is going to be dropped. Iacona is the first to fall. No Divine Shield used.
Non-used for Iacona, but he's still a ghost. The 3-man mosh pit, and this is the time for Talking Trees to start the resets if they can get the one. Palm used to keep Casanova alive. They're trying so desperately to take out Yoda, but it's Johanna who falls first, then Vala. Even still, 2 kills for the 1 in favor of SpaceStation.
SpaceStation Gaming there with the aggressive play and is able to show signs of life here, even post 10, which is a very important thing for them. That Abathur getting that soak, and they've restored the balance of the experience here. This is a very, very important moment for SpaceStation Gaming. They just need to make sure that this translates over to something more than just a few kills. This is Battlefield of Eternity, and right now that mule is just doing work.
They were so low they couldn't push along with the minion wave that they did push, and Superstars responds immediately, takes out the wave. Abathur's going to be able to heal all of the damage, undo everything that SpaceStation did with that last Immortal, except, of course, building back up the gate and the towers.
You heard it here live, guys. Mule update comes soon. It's going to just restore front wall. You know,
it'll actually start building it.
It will actually just from nothing.
That's what you need to do. You know, you can't double up with the mules, but if you have two, then it can start building.
It just legitimately starts creating structures. I like it. Immortal, has it been up and ready here? Poke from SpaceStation Gaming, but they've been pushed back rather effectively there from Thornwood Vine and Hosey's dot damage. Ate a big orb. Urho's pulling back. Power slide does not land. Iron Skin used, not even necessary, but it did deter a drag.
That it did. All of SpaceStation are here, so they're fully committed to getting in here before Superstar starts running away with the experience. They want this fight, but Mosh Pit not up for 15 more seconds.
Without Mosh Pit and the clone used, there's no reason for SpaceStation Gaming to stick around. They're down 2 disadvantages right here. It is very important for them to disengage. Wait, 5, 4. Now, when that comes back online, I expect them to get very offensive here into Superstars, knowing that huge cooldown's down.
Dahaka still clearing out the bottom, but Casanova goes on forward.
Yeah,
Yoda disengages at the same time.
Whoa, but the damage! Hosty is just deleted here. Isolation going on to Iacona. No heals for Superstars, but he manages to keep himself alive through it.
He is alive, and he still has Divine Shield, absolutely necessary. Only the 1 kill on Vala. Now they're power slide, but Jason catches Yoda, and he'll be the next to fall. Mosh Pit behind that takes out Johanna, a triple kill.
Immortal gets the interrupt, but it is not even necessary. The triple kill of SpaceStation Gaming. It's about this big Immortal behind it, though. We were complaining about some of the lack of structures SpaceStation Gaming was able to get, but they have held on long enough into this game, and more importantly, has been successful enough over this Immortal phase to where we will finally see them take down some of the blue base Superstars.
What's the setup now for SpaceStation? They're fairly low on mana for the resources. Jason's going to tap up to the top, and the top is where the Immortal will push. Jason clearing out that minion wave, clearing out Nest to set up for the team to push along with it. Does he go bottom against the Abathur?
I feel like without front wall, with the shielding this healthy, why are the members of Superstars even willing to risk this? A brush stock right behind them and a flank could be, I mean, legitimately the beginning of the M. You'd never want to use the clone up until onto the keep unless you're going to take this fight.
They have 13 to 13.
This is just so risky for Superstars. If they end up taking that advantage, the shielding's getting removed and it doesn't look like they'll take the bait.
Soraya's used the clone now, power slide, and then the Immortal stun is all but dealt with that clone. Disintegrate will even be used just to make sure that the clone is gone. Dahaka's still staying in the bottom, though.
Yeah, and hasn't made it. They've made it past the shrub, so now that play is out of the window here for SpaceStation Gaming. But still, a lot has been earned with this Immortal, as it's going to round out at about, and you know, half the turret keep on that keep front wall.
Yeah, but the immediate shadow showing a mule will be coming in for reinforcements soon enough. So really, it was the fort. The fort's been dealt with. Dahaka tried to push minions up to that fort in the bottom lane too, but SpaceStation doesn't have like 16 to the 14. This is the opportune time for Superstars to look to fight, so SpaceStation not going to get too aggressive, just waiting until they can get that 16 to be in a better place for the next Mortal phase, unless they find someone with a drag.
Jason not able to connect with that one. Hosey, though, getting very offensive moving forward here, trying to force pre-16. SpaceStation Gaming might give it to them. Tiger JK is flanking. Yoda's in a terrible position. He's going to get dragged, punched, Divine Shield force, and now the members of SpaceStation are on full retreat, realizing this is pre-16.
Yeah, the weight on the drag was perfect. There's a strafe, but Yoda's still very low, and Divine Shield was already used early on in the fight. Drag connects on a clone, so that's gone, but it will be back fairly soon for Superstars. But Superstars have used a lot of what they could in team fights. Blessed Shield, their clone, Divine Shield, trying to make that fight happen before SpaceStation got to 16, and now they're backing off, recognizing that they cannot continue to engage.
Superstars picked a slow-paced early game and struggled over those Immortals. And the last time we saw them post-10 over the Immortal phase, that they were semi-successful, but it's still a 3/4 shielded Immortal almost every single time. And now down the 16 talent tiers, it does feel like the game has moved far enough that they can't risk this anymore. I just don't know how can they get that form of recovery down such a colossal talent here? It's going to be very important that they somehow get a miracle delay. I feel like a lot of this is on those blinds of Urho, on the Johanna. Maybe the argument we were looking for her has to start here.
Blessed Shield is also a lower cooldown, so it's already back up. Superstars are willing to defend their Immortal even without the 16 talents. But
and the fact that SpaceStation Gaming isn't confident enough to kick off the halftime shows to me that I'm a little bit more scared for SpaceStation Gaming over the next few minutes than I am for Superstars. Even though they've been struggling on the Immortals and in just team fighting in general, SpaceStation Gaming here, if they're not active over the next few, I feel like that is going to be a risk that they did not need to take, and maybe one to give a window for Superstars to come back. Drag doesn't land there for Jason, but Hosty falls very, very low. Yoda, oh, the dream power slide deletes Hosty.
He is deleted. Yoda gets caught. As soon as Divine Shield is done with the Mosh, a double kill. Oh, man. Lunara and Greymane gone. Uther falls. SpaceStation just waiting until the opportune time.
Yeah.
They pulled up some Superstars. They pulled him up to the center. I think they were also waiting on Dahaka to make sure that he was in a comfortable spot, pushing the lane until he had control of that before Abathur, or so Abathur couldn't take down the fort. Now everything's coming up aces for SpaceStation.
Yeah, SpaceStation Gaming there, man. It just felt like they were waiting for the commander to just say, "It's blast off, boys." Press the big red button, and everything just worked out phenomenally there. Now they've got themselves nearly 100% shielding Immortal. It's going to be sieging through, what do we see, bottom. Now on the other side, they've got the Shaman camp, and it is almost near flawless timing onto the Shaman camp as well. Things could not be grimmer here for Superstars other than the fact their core could be dead. That is really about... I mean, let's be real here. SpaceStation Gaming might be able to make that happen here with this Immortal.
It might be. This is 100% shielding for Bella, the red Immortal. SpaceStation steps forward, defending that Immortal, making sure no free poke happens to it until it is in range of the towers. Hosty still has some really good poke, and SpaceStation are trying to do their best to avoid the brunt of the poison damage from Hosty so that they can still march forward as the Immortal gets onto the keep.
Dem goes through. 50% shielding. Clone's going to be dropped there from Sray as it moves up to this keep. Stun number 1, nobody's victim there. Urho going to condemn in. Feign aggression, but it's just feigning as the keep is still the focus here for SpaceStation. Equinox strafes, but it's more of a deterrent to zone Superstars.
Clone is down.
Do they
That's
go for
been
the core?
used. It's still very healthy.
They're going. Time's up. Let's do this.
Immortal gets onto the core. Can SpaceStation bring it down? No mosh pit until right now. Strafe still down. It's a lot of damage behind that. The Immortal's been dealt with. SpaceStation does not want to continue the fight, but Superstars are happy to try to keep them here.
If they do so, though, they're still very, very low in HP, so it's going to be a difficult team fight either way. Seems like they accept maybe the outcome here, but they need to force before the 20 event is here for SpaceStation Gaming. And with the pressure up on bottom, you see Urho and friends, they're venturing out, just trying to catch anybody on the side of SpaceStation Gaming out onto the map. Now they're going to take the one camp that they have within access, and then it's just going to be the delay game. It's just, can they get the 20 before the Immortals actually come online again? I think maybe because of the Abathur and his free reign of soak, but by no means is it cut and dry.
Superstars has been having a lot of difficulty with these mosh pits. We know that Johanna is the primary person to try to stop that mosh pit, but it's so frustrating for Superstars when their main engagement tool as a warrior is Blessed Shield.
I mean, standard Johanna, right? If she doesn't make up for the wave clear, typically her initiation's really, really weak. And I think that this game has accented that kind of argument of why Johanna can fall off in certain situations pretty effectively, even more so because of the Abathur. Because Abathur, when you drop Clone, you want the fight right then. But if Blessed Shield's the only way to really start it, nobody really seems to care. It's just kind of like, guys, they want this fight. Do we want to give it to them? If the answer's no, it's pretty easy for SpaceStation Gaming to nope right on out of the circumstances. And it's not like a Lunara is going to suddenly flank and force the fight. It really is just a compositional downside here for Superstars, and one they have yet to overcome.
Yeah, and between that and Uther, who has the long cooldowns, did not take Hand of Protection, wanted Guardian of Ancient Kings, and there's no Thornwood Vine. Lunara wanted to have that consistent poke with Thornwood Vine, and that's helped in defending their structures. It's helped in trying to make sure that they can put some poke onto the Immortals. but she doesn't have her own way of making sure that she can even dodge a mosh pit. Casanova really, he's been pretty patient with his moshes, and we know he gets good mosh pits, but it really does feel like this is kind of, he's like a kid in a candy store.
But Yoda hits a full rotation there. I have no idea what he even did, but we find ourselves, Vala just dead. Wow, there has been some serious plays. Now we got the Divine Shield there onto Yoda. Urho hits a 3-man condemn. Tiger JK's soloing Hosty.
He is all the way in the back line. Jason throws out a drag, but no catches.
What happened?
Yeah, it's a super deletion.
Just Vala, I blinked and she is out of here.
I think that does qualify as a super deleted. No Vala here now, and SpaceStation are still continuing to defend at their Immortal, knowing that they still have Storm talents above Superstars.
The Stray with Clone falling below the 50%. They need this halftime show to kick off. Tiger pokes away once more. Iacona drops a heal. And 20 seconds still for SpaceStation Gaming. Will they be able to get Equinox here before this Immortal is taken? I think it's very likely. It's just, if Superstars gets too much damage.
Nobody's deterring Hosty at all. Just now, Jason is moving into the position where he's at, but we're getting into late game. We're 20 minutes into this. Hosty poisons are tough to keep up with.
3 catapults on the core. It gets roughly like 30%, 40% damage on the core, but they can waste that because they have a mule. This is one of the few situations where this is actually a really clever call, not overreacting to these catapults on bottom. But they bring the Leeming, or excuse me, the Lunara back. Okay, Lunara back. She's shown herself on bottom. The palm, the mosh.
Burrow.
No way.
Oh, Greymane's down.
Jason.
Mosh connect. Airho's gone. How did?
Miracles.
That was a 0 hit points Burrow.
And he makes it out.
Equinox.
He goes down 1 for 1. Drag onto Sray, but that's just a clone. 2 for 1 in total. Superstars find themselves with a big disadvantage. Hosty got power slid on, knocked back. Punches coming out from Tiger. Divine Shield used, but it's the shielding on this Immortal that is now gone over to SpaceStation Gaming that we are so concerned on. This Hosty's in hot pursuit here. Tiger's got another heal.
He had the heal, and he's giving the movement speed. Everyone escapes. SpaceStation only loses their Vala for the Greymane and Johanna. Looking at the cooldown timers, though, the Johanna and Greymane will be back up to help Superstars. This Immortal is going to be on Superstars' side of the battleground, which means Vala's going to have to run all the way across. This does give a point where Superstars will have that man advantage, and nobody's here.
Oh, Jason.
He is ridiculous with these drags.
That is going to be one dead Iacona. He's got Redemption available. Shielding. How much shielding are we going to see? How much damage even onto the keep? Is it 100% a keep, or is there enough damage to be able to rid of this? At this point, I don't know. With no members of SpaceStation Gaming willing to move up.
Looks like it should go down. It's going to be close.
Oh my.
Yeah.
The slam, if they could have stopped that, that mule would have had a dream situation. But he's been doing work, booping up onto the cores. We see that ticking up, almost rounding it now back to the original form here, 100%. But more importantly than really anything else here is Superstars, they got themselves 20 and the game is not over. There is still a chance, but it's not necessarily a big one here. No. They have still a long way to go.
No structures remaining. They do have Mule, though, for the core, so the core is back up to 100. But SpaceStation still has both their forts, both their keeps, and they are invading. Again, Iacona, my friend, does not have Redemption back up.
Got Divine Shield off in time, though. Casanova's the focus. He has to bolt out. He needs a heal if he's going to survive. Tiger JK's under pressure. They're both down. The blessed shield!
Stray following and chasing in for more damage. Drag catches Yoda. That had to be max range. Jason slowed down.
Condemn is not even going... Oh, it's going to be used, but with the Burrow down, 3 members of SpaceStation Gaming, the strafe kicks off. It's going to force the indestructible. Can Therese reset on reset? Oh. 3 for 1. SpaceStation Gaming lose so many thanks to the blessed shield of Urho that was near flawless, stunning the secondary kill target and ensuring the ETC's death was amazing.
Yeah, that was insane. Making sure that Tiger JK couldn't heal Casanova in that time when it was absolutely necessary to keep him alive. Now, 18 more seconds until Casanova's back up. Same with Karazim. Dahaka will be a little bit longer. And this might be, for a first time in a while, a place where Superstars can get into a better position. They did have a better position initially for the Immortal in the last phase, but they had to go back and defend their core. They lost some. Whereas Space Station is going to be a bit until Dahaka can stalk back in.
Yeah, and this spawning is not necessarily advantageous for Superstars here, considering the fact that Dahaka's dead for 5 more seconds, and then they're going to be catapult pressure on top, catapult pressure on bottom. This is a very easy position for SpaceStation Gaming to group, constantly tap, go back to the base, restore the balance of HP, and then look to be able to fight and brawl it out here throughout mid.
24 minutes, and you can see the damage Lunara is doing to Space Station with the poison.
Dahaka's worried about the camp pressure out through bottom. He's going to show himself there. Abathur's still got a little bit of work up on top. Once that camp is removed, though, by Dahaka, again, it's going to help those double catapult pressures, which at this point has got to be the sole focus for SpaceStation Gaming. With this kind of immortal spawning this late into the game, no matter what comp you have, this is a very easy and winning strategy to be able to execute. It's just whether or not they can prep the waves properly, and if that mule causes them to overreact. So that's not a talent we see too many teams pick up.
Space Station steps forward knowing that the defense has been started for Superstars in the top lane, and they easily make quick work of that first half of the Immortal.
The shielding on the core is dead, and there's 2 catapults. I don't know if they can risk this low
73.
of HP.
Superstars are still on the field. Space Station, are they realizing it, trying to get the fight now?
It's still really low, low enough to where it's a pretty big risk. 2 members are actually feigning to go to the core, Equinox and Dahaka. Yeah, it's going up, but the shielding's so low that 2 members can all in it, and that's why Equinox and friends are going in. They're going to keep the shielding low, rid of the mule, and now that's going to be permanent damage if he just auto.
Except for...
Oh, he got it. I think he got it.
The damage from Abathur, and now Hosty. The siphoning arrow did not save you this day, Equinox. 60 seconds until Vol is back up.
Now
Space Station doesn't have.
Lunara's worried about the catapults on the core with 69% still there. The mule was removed, so there's a long while before anything's going to heal that thing past that percentile. And there's 2 catapults on top, 2 up on bottom. Superstars is going to struggle heavily here over the next few seconds. There's so much pressure on their core.
Here's the reasoning for the Johanna, slowing down as best Superstars can.
Gilly, I don't know if it matters.
It's not enough.
The core is going to die. Superstars is going to lose this game. 57,
Abathur, go slap.
No way, the minion wave spawned perfect timing. It stalls out a couple more seconds, and now the mule can heal it up, 45. Look at where the minion wave spawned, Gilly. I cannot tell you how lucky that was. That's, oh my gosh, Superstars, hold on.
They hold on again. Jason's dissuading Superstars from damaging, but it's just a lone Jason. Look at Karzim.
Goes through bottom. Johanna's the only one there. There's no way the mule's down.
Multiple threats everywhere against the core of Superstars. They have held on for so long, being down 2 keeps. Can they make the miracle defense happen one more time here? Or will Space Station finally close out a 27-minute Battlefield of Eternity game?
And Immortal walks up. There says, there's 11%. That is it. Space Station Gaming do take it. But it was a hard-fought battle here on Battlefield.
It was a bit of a doozy, that game.
It was.
Between Space Station and Superstars, I don't even know how many times we messed up the names.
You know, let's just keep it at a solid 0. You know, if we never embrace the fact that it was an issue, then it in fact isn't an issue, right?
I like it.
I like it too.
So, I mean, when we talked about the draft and we talked about the pitfalls for Superstars, a lot of that did come into fruition.
Yeah.
The Johanna having trouble with mosh pits, and the Abathur Space Station able to recognize that they needed to do some early damage. Not necessarily in the laning phase, but at least making sure that they got the early Immortals, and pretty quickly, thanks to the siege amount that they could do with Li Ming and Vala.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned now for Superstars, considering the map, the result there. You know, you asked me beforehand, does that give a team an advantage after game number 1? Even with SpaceStation Gaming, in my opinion, failing to apply effective pressure into the Abathur, especially considering that first Immortal, it just feels like even without maybe getting as much as they could have, they still ended up winning on a map that was very unfavorable for Space Station. So immediately, rechanging that, a pretty darn big advantage here for Space Station now, especially with that first game.
Well, there were a lot of fights in that last game. Let's check out some of the highlights from that one.
I was just informed that I'm supposed to speak over this. I didn't
There
know
we
that.
go. Oh,
Look at that flask blessing.
Man.
He used go for the throw. We heard the audio.
Yeah.
So he throwed it. He ended up getting the proc. So then here we see 72% on the court. Jason's the main focus. They go in.
Burrow, mosh pit after. And then Storm Shield Man, that's when we were talking about synergy that we were wanting to see and that we've been hoping to see from these teams. That was an exact example of what we've been waiting to see from SpaceStation, especially after they boot camped at the beginning of this part.
And I feel like after, you know, how this game went in the second, what I would consider outstanding performance, I feel like, for Tiger JK and Karzim. He has had amazing performances, but recently he's been more consistent, I feel like, with them.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed, you know, every time the guy is on the hero, even in this game where he might have a bit more struggles, other than the downside of his kit, like the Johanna Blessed Shield situation. He did everything proper. Every Divine Palm going down is timed to where it's not too early, but it's also not too late, like unless there's a major reasoning for it. It's just, I mean, he's one of the few supports. I'd be willing to say he's, in my opinion, the only support in North America right now that can play Karzim.